Yo, I've been recording all day long. This is part of the business when you run a business that's video centric, and I'm launching something on Saturday. So I've been in the lab working. Let me get Instagram up and running here. Okay. Welcome to the Tuesday night live stream. I am keeping my commitment to keep doing this. I have a good time doing it. Still fighting internet. This is like my final boss. Like the internet's like my final boss. Um, I'll figure out something. But anyway, welcome to the Tuesday night live stream. I got a lot of topics I want to get into because my ADHD was overtime this week, y'all. So I'm gonna go ahead and roll the intro and let's get into this thing. All right, y'all. So welcome back to the live stream. Hey, if you get a chance, hop in these comments here. These streams are a lot more enjoyable when I'm able to converse with people. And so if anything I says connects, resonates, you just want to say, hey, what's up? Let me know you in the building. Drop something in the chat, say what's up. All right. So tonight's live stream, we got a lot of ground to cover. I was planning on doing something on Thursday, but life lifed, and as such, I didn't get a chance to get around to it. The top of the news. Well, let's say tonight's gonna be a little nostalgic, some nerdiness, some conspiracy stuff. And that's kind of what it is. So we're going to talk about Hulk Hogan, some class dynamics within the Black community, among Black professionals, the ninja craze and what that meant for me. A brilliant documentary I saw about the D.A.R.E program, which I highly recommend. Check it out on YouTube. And this theory I'm working out, like I'm doing 2 video essays. One's going to be about ninjas. The other one's going to be about the idea that a lot of these Midwestern cities were built as crime syndicates that we built infrastructure around. So that's what we have on today's live stream. Tap in. So first things first. Hulk Hogan died. What was it? Thursday? I think it had to be Thursday. And I'm saying this as somebody that I am a wrestling nerd. That's like one of the first exposures to this nerd world that I got connected with was pro wrestling. And growing up in the Midwest, while we did get like the Georgia, was it the Georgia Championship Wrestling, which turned into WCW eventually, with NWA, WCW and stuff. We got the shows broadcast here. The people that toured here when I was growing up was WWF. And so that was the promotion that I was most familiar with. Not most familiar with, but those are the ones I actually went out and went to go see live. And never got to see Hulk Hogan live because Hulk Hogan wasn't coming to Omaha, bro. I'm sorry. This wasn't. It just, it wasn't in the cards. I did get to see Shawn Michaels and Diesel in your house, which was dope. I saw that live. But nah, man, the Hulk Hogan wasn't really coming to Omaha. Like we wasn't that big of a deal. And growing up, grow up in 80s era, 90s era. 80s era was tough, bro, being black. Black kid in the 80s, because your heroes was limited to like I had like Mr. T, Optimus Prime, and Hulk Hogan. Like that was like my 3, like Mr. T, Optimus Prime, and Hulk Hogan. Like those were like the 3 dudes. Like that was like the luminaries of the time. And then other people kind of filtered in, but it was Mr. T, Hulk Hogan, Optimus Prime. Life was tough. This is Reaganomics, bro. Like it was the Reagan era, man. Everybody was struggling. And so growing up, Hulk Hogan was the central kind of figure. Now, I did start branching out a little bit earlier because I did like Macho Man Randy Savage, even though I wasn't supposed to like him. I did like Roddy Piper, even though I wasn't supposed to like him. And whatever black wrestlers came aboard, I was with it. Like Junkyard Dog, when he came over to WWF, I was all into him and stuff like that. But at the time, Hogan was that dude. And, it is what it is, right? And I know that wrestling has a super problematic history with race. It still has problematic shit going on, to be quite honest with you. But really super problematic along racial lines. I mean, they always had racial tropes going on. Um, Vince McMahon Sr. was really big about having the ethnic baby face, ethnic good guy. I'll say, I'm not getting too far into it. And so that was always a thing in the New York area and stuff like that. But it was always really problematic when it came to black folks. And so we had our megastars. Like in the Louisiana territory, Junkyard Dog was every bit as big as Hulk Hogan. And back when wrestling was really territory based, people down south wasn't watching WWF like that, bro. And so Hulk Hogan was this star on the national stage, but it took a while for him to catch um, in other parts of the world. And here's the thing: he did a lot of other stuff. It wasn't just WWF. Like I think he was AWA. He wrestled over in Japan. When he was mobile, he could actually do stuff. Like you see him doing drop toe holds and all kinds of other mobile stuff, hyper mobile stuff that you didn't see him do later on in his career and everything. I'm saying all that to say this. I was watching Hulk Hogan. I kind of fell out of love with Hulk Hogan around the time of the WCW thing and the NWO. And I wasn't mad about the NWO thing. It just got oversaturated where I'm like, I'm kind of sick of watching this. Sick of seeing them win everything and just kill everybody. And so I was kind of off the Hulk Hogan train pretty early on. By the time I was in high school, college, I was getting off the Hulk Hogan train. And then what was it, 2002, 2003, the tapes dropped. I'm trying to remember the timeline. I know he sued Gawker Media, but I gotta Google that. So the slurs dropped in like 2007. And by then, I was kind of off of Hulk Hogan. Like I had been off of him for a couple of years. And knowing how problematic territory wrestling was, and even YouTube, even later on, because this was a couple of years before like YouTube really took off, where you could really start seeing these shoot interviews with black wrestlers. You knew that there was something weird going on in wrestling regarding black wrestlers, even though black fans had been in a lot of areas. They were the most dedicated audiences to the people they like to see wrestle. So the slurs dropped, and I was done with Hulk Hogan. Like, fuck Hulk Hogan. Like, I was off of that. And it was kind of a slap in the face because a lot of kids my age idolized Hulk Hogan growing up. A lot of black kids my age idolized this dude growing up. And to see what he thought about us, it wasn't shocking. We're never surprised by that kind of stuff. It wasn't shocking. The only folks that I knew that were shocked by Hulk Hogan weren't us. You low key kind of expect it. When dude's calling everybody brother, I always have that's always a weird. Yeah. It's always a weird thing. Like I wasn't shocked at all by Hulk Hogan. It was still kind of a slap in the face though. Like, I grew up watching this dude, and this dude thinks the worst of me. Said something to his son about when his son killed somebody in a car accident, he'd be reincarnated as a black person, all kinds of other crazy shit. Hulk Hogan was gone, bro. Like we had lost that dude early on. And so when he died, I didn't feel anything. Listen, there's so much going on in this world. I ain't got time to cry for dead racists, bro. And it wasn't even the endearing kind of chuckle, ha ha, this dude's a racist dude. It was like just boring boilerplate racism, which is even more offensive to me. At least be entertaining racism, not this boilerplate. I just use the N-word and that's it. That's where it ends. Like it was like the lamest, worst kind of racism. And so I checked out like, fuck Hulk Hogan. And so to see all these people getting mad at black wrestling fans specifically for saying, yeah, man, we off Hulk Hogan. Now that was a little bit jarring because you can't force people to cry over dead racists, bro. You can't force black people to feel some kind of way about dead racists. I remember when the Queen of England died a couple years ago, and they was mad at Nigerians for dancing on her grave. Listen, man, If you knew what the British Army did to the Nigerians under her rule, like even though she had just taken over, man, them folks that they were entitled to that. And so expecting people to cry over dead racists is kind of crazy, bro. You expecting them to feel as bad as you do. That's crazy. And so Hulk Hogan died. People got mad because black wrestling fans were like, yeah, I'm off of them. And it's really interesting watching WWE because when they showed the 10 bell salute, you could see some of the black and Samoan wrestlers out there like, oh, that's that dude. Like they didn't have the typical I'm sad face. They were just like waiting for this to be over, bro. And so to me, that speaks more than anything else because your legacy is kind of defined by how people respond to you in the time of crisis or after you pass. And a lot of those wrestlers that would have been in that locker room as young people or grew up around him, because you have second and third generation wrestlers in there that would have grown up in proximity um, to a locker room where he's at. They weren't too thrilled about it. Like they're like, this needs to be over, bro. And so it's just interesting to see. I'm not going to go into the leaked audio. Everybody knows the leaked audio with the racist slurs. Basically talking about he didn't want his daughter to date a black man. I don't care about that stuff. WWE, like they quietly suspended him, then realized there were still bags to obtain with him on the roster. So they quietly brought him back. There was no accountability. That's why people were booing him so loudly at the last couple of public appearances, because people's off of him, bro. Like he detonated his own legacy with that stuff. And the only reason he said all that stuff is because he thought that it would never get out. He is fully comfortable saying it. So I didn't even buy the apology. Because he would have said, he knew, he was like, yeah, this ain't never going to see the light of day. So I'm going to just wild out, say whatever the hell I want to. Stand on it. Own it. The only thing you're sad about is the lost revenue behind it and the lost goodwill, because you went from being the beloved icon that people loved to nobody wants to listen, nobody wants to hear from you. And he did that to himself. That's what pisses me off more than anything else about Hulk Hogan, because this was really, really an unforced error on his part. Okay. But it does go into it, and maybe it's a different podcast we do. There are different episodes of live stream where we talk about how black wrestlers have been treated, specifically in WWF or WWE, whatever you want to call it. But during the WWF days and during the WWE days. But then you could also talk about in the Tennessee territories and stuff all over the country. Like I said, there were major black wrestling stars in places where there was a huge black population. Junkyard Dog was massive, to the point that people were ready to kill. The fans were ready to kill behind Junkyard Dog getting blinded. Who was that who did that? Blanking on my name. It was Gordy and it was Terry Gordy and all that. Anyway, I need to look that up. Who blinded the Junkyard Dog? If you see it if you know it, put it in the chats. But they was ready to kill, like black fans was ready to kill behind Junkyard Dog. This is before, wrestling, people knew that it was staged or scripted or whatnot. But people ready to kill behind the Junkyard Dog. That's how strong and fervent the fan base was. And like I said, he's every bit as big as Hogan was. By the time they got to WWF, his drug habit, it really got spiraled out of control. He was a shell. He was a ghost of who he had been. And it was really sad watching some of the old footage of Junkyard Dog versus what he did in WWF, because it really was not the same. It really wasn't. But it's the Freebirds behind the Junkyard Dog. They was trying to kill them folk, bro. Like in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, like if you was a bad guy in wrestling, you was hurting the main good guy, them folks would try to kill you. Like, I'm dead serious. Starting riots and all kinds of other stuff. They would try to kill you. A lot of these old wrestlers got stories about getting shanked up, stabbed in the crowd. Somebody hit them with a bottle. Somebody messed up their car, hunting them down around town and stuff. It was real to them. And Junkyard Dog was a huge star. But there are other black wrestlers. Ernie Ladd had his runs where he was huge. There's like a lot of other black wrestlers sprinkled throughout history who had that mega star appeal. But it's always been problematic, bro. The the was it the Ugandan giant Kamala? Like this dude's biting fish and all kinds of other crazy shit in the ring. Come on, man. It made him a lot of money, but come on, man. And so there's a whole conversation that can happen regarding WWF's weird history of black wrestlers, but wrestling in general's weird history of black wrestlers. That might be another video essay for another time. Okay. Here's what I'm saying. We're being asked to honor an image, but dude didn't really honor us. Outside of, by the time I was like 10 or 12, I was off of Hulk Hogan anyway. So it is what it is. All right. We're pivoting. So one thing I realized, and this is kind of a coming of age thing, as I got older, and this might be a jarring transition, so I'll just apologize in advance. One thing I became acutely aware of in my working career, because I was all in on corporate side of stuff. When I was doing residential youth care, I was all in on that. Like I had this vision of me sitting at the table with all the big names in youth care in our state and being one of the decision makers. And I did land in a role that was a decision maker eventually. But I was climbing. I was in that corporate climb mode in my early 30s because I'm like, I want to be, really involved. I was really, really trying to integrate what I had experience in working with the court system and working, with families in general, black families in specific, and some of the insider knowledge I had with the court system and juvenile justice system. And I was really trying to parlay that into something into the community. And so, as a lot of young black professionals do, I try to start in those networking groups. And I really found out real quick the class differences that I knew existed, but I did not know that they was like that, bro. Like I did not know how stark those class differences was. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of my history about this. So I grew up lower to middle class, depending on where my mom was working, if she was picking up a second job, or if she was going to school or whatever. My mom did an excellent job. One, I knew I was always materially spoiled, even though she didn't have a lot. She made sure I got a lot, and so, but it also there were days, I knew I was when I was a kid, I thought you were rich. I thought that you were rich if you could afford to have cable in your house year round. Like that was my signifier of wealth. And then talking to peers that had been able to travel outside the country for vacations. What? We was packed in the car heading down to Kansas City or Des Moines, Iowa to go to Adventureland or Worlds of Fun. And that was the summer vacation. As I got older, I was asked, my mom would say, do you want to do summer vacation? I could send you to this engineering camp, or I could send you to this space camp. And so, we had to make those kind of decisions. We didn't do without, but, when I got older, I realized, yeah, she was really scraping to get what we could get. And once I got old enough, my mom graduated, got her master's degree, and she was able to get a really high paying job. It started like she was making up for lost time with spoiling my kids and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I was acutely aware when I started that networking thing as a young black professional. I became acutely aware of, I am not in this society. I'm not, I wasn't, the conversations with the black kids that were kind of raised more middle class to upper middle class, because there's a difference, right? And so if you're raised lower middle class to poor, there are certain things that you kind of get accustomed to. I never had, I started working around 14 years old. Like I got my first internship, and I had been working ever since because I wanted to buy the more expensive clothes. I wanted to buy, at the time it was Timberlands and Jordans and pennies. I wanted to afford some more name brand stuff that my mom could afford. And so I started working relatively early on. That's important. Um, and so as a result, I didn't grow up with a lot of the amenities. I remember getting made fun of because I still had my regular Nintendo, where everybody else had a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis. I didn't get my Sega Genesis until almost its end of life. And uh, the PlayStation was like, I had to have a job to buy that for myself. And so I was aware of, as I got older, I started getting more aware of this stuff. But also, as I started getting older, that's when mom started getting more promotions and stuff and started getting those higher paying jobs. But by then, I was kind of trying to do my own thing. I called myself being adult, trying to have an apartment and all this other stuff. So I never really got to live, I never really lived up under that for too long. Because by the time I was 21, 22, I had already moved out because I was locked in, like, I'm going to be an adult. I'm at my own place. So anyway, long story short, I realized when I was trying to do my networking thing, as I'm trying to do the social ladder climbing thing, that a lot of the black folks I was around sitting around tables with, I really had nothing in common with. A lot of them were involved in either fraternities or sororities. A lot of them, these were the peers that their parents could afford to send them to cotillion and all that other stuff. These were the designer label kids and stuff like that. And so even the interactions were two different frames. And it's not anything negative against them. I don't want it to come out like that. But I realized that we are conversing on different levels. Um, and I did not understand the rules as a refugee of lower middle class, uh, lower to mid, lower middle class. This is getting like we're really getting into the peel and the onion here. We're getting into the inception level of classes, but I realized that I did not have the tools to effectively communicate nor navigate that layer of society because I didn't know the rules. And so it was jarring because my early professional life, I didn't know how to talk to these people. I did not know how to integrate with these people, how to hang around them. I wanted to do the young, I think it was the young black professionals at the time, but I wasn't in the clique and I didn't know how to get in the group. Now I know things have changed since. So we're talking about 45 now. So we're talking about 15 years ago. I wasn't in the clique. And at the time, I didn't know how to get into the clique. Now, here's a couple of things I need to put out there. One, I was dosed up heavily on ADHD medication. And so my interactions socially were already kind of stunted and weird. um, Two, I was asking too much and I was too far in my own head about a lot of stuff. And so that put some barriers and walls around it too. But trying to attend these meetings and small talk with these folks, um, it just wasn't working. And I realized as I got older that I did not understand the rules of engagement. I did the Bridges Out of Poverty thing, and they really did break it down in terms of. I did the training, and one of the things I did learn was um, different classes, people from different strata do have different things they value, different things they communicate. And so talking to some of the more upper middle class black folks, like the things that they like to do, um, go to cigar bars, which I have no interest in that. Um, wine bars. That's not my space, bro. Like, if we're keeping it 100%, there's this place in Omaha called the Beardcade, where it's a bar, but it's an arcade where they got all the old school video games. That's where I want to go. Keep the cigar bar, put a vintage Mortal Kombat 1 uh cabinet in front of me. I'm in heaven. That's perfect for me. That's the night out that I'm looking for. Going out to a wine bar, going out to um cigar bar and stuff, that is not appealing to me, but that's where a lot of the society was. Um, Initially, they were trying to get me into, I did kind of get recruited to a degree to join 100 Black Men. And nothing against the organization, but at that point, I realized that I don't really get along or I don't know how to navigate these spaces. And I had the choice: do I stretch myself to try to navigate this space and learn how to speak the dialect of um, or not even speak the dialect because I do have I'm pretty verbose. Like I've never been at a loss for words, but do I know how the social rules of navigating upper middle class Black life? And I don't think I did. And I'm like, I don't necessarily want to go join 100 Black Men. Um, you know, I know how to speak professionally. I know how to speak to people. I'm educated. I'm well read. I mean, those aren't things. So people that know me know that I can turn it on and turn it off. Right. Um, I know how to interact. I know how to communicate on that level. It's whether I feel comfort, like if I feel like it's my authentic self, and that's just not what it was. The lifestyle, Mitch, man, cigar bars, wine tasting, even brunch culture. I don't mind a good brunch here or there, but that's just not me. That's not where I'm comfortable. Like I said, take me to the beercade, put a drink in my hand and let me sit in front of a Street Fighter cabinet. I can play some Street Fighter 2 Turbo Edition. I'm in a happy place. I'd rather have that than going to a wine bar, going to a cigar bar. That's just me. And so it's really interesting. It's kind of jarring because I do have my interactions with Black folks that grew up with a lot more means than I have. Um, and so it's not a barrier, but if there's a communication gap. And I was turned off by the kind of social climbing stuff. Like that was not what I felt comfortable in. And so I checked out pretty early. I wasn't really good at going along to get along. When I was at Boys Town, I'll be 100% with you. I got myself in trouble a lot of times because I was based in North Omaha, and we're about to get to some hyper regional shit. So if you're watching us from somewhere else, North Omaha is where the Black folks live in Omaha. We were stationed, like our office was in North Omaha, and I got myself in trouble a lot for pounding the table and demanding that North Omaha get represented and have their voices represented in the room of the decision makers and be acknowledged, because we weren't. Here's the one that really got me in trouble. I remember this real clear. So my mom did epidemiology. She was a researcher at University Hospital, the local university medical center, specializing in breast cancer, Black women specifically. She started a whole organization behind it and everything else, which reminds me, I got some work to do on the website. So anyway, that was her thing. And so she was in contact with a lot of other professors who had access to research and stuff like that. And so I was getting this string of complaints from parents, from Black parents that we interact with. They would go to the Boys Town website and not be able to utilize it for anything. The website was functionally useless to anybody outside the organization. It was just a big bulletin board, but it didn't tell people how to get in contact with somebody for services or anything. It just give you a hotline number. Didn't list any services or anything. So, it might have been Dr. Shinabu. I can't remember. Anyway, she had her, I sent them the link and had her students research and look at the website and give some recommendations on how to make it more engaging. Because her, they were looking at it from a public policy standpoint of how, if Boys Town's trying to be more present in this community that they've had a long history of abandoning. I'm not getting into that. How can we make the website a little bit more user-friendly? And so Dr. Shinabu took it to her students. They did a full audit on it and gave me the results. I took that audit, and our next meeting as a location, we're sitting now talking to the head of marketing and development and stuff. And I presented them that audit that I had and said, here's some recommendations for it. I got in trouble because I embarrassed the marketing team because their website sucked and the community couldn't get any use out of it. So I got myself in trouble a lot for advocating for the community. That's why I realized that, even though I was working for a multi-billion-dollar organization, they weren't necessarily 100% engaged in North Omaha in the way that I wanted them to be engaged in North Omaha. They wanted me to sit in the office and be the black face smiling in the office, and I couldn't do that. I needed a little bit more out of that. But also, I was trying to navigate the black professional circle, and I wasn't really cut out for that either. Just because, because for them, let me keep honest. For a lot of the people that I interacted with at the time, they were happy to have a position and a paycheck, and so there was no really speaking any truth to power. They were they were protecting their position because, and here's the take. They felt like they were in a position to impact the community positively. They didn't want to burn any bridges above them and get themselves into any trouble. I, on the other hand, had no such couth. My ADHD did not allow me to do that stuff. And so I didn't give a fuck about burning bridges above me. And so I got myself in trouble really fast. I spent way too much time on that, y'all. I really did. But all that to say this, I didn't necessarily, I tried that life and it just wasn't cut out for me. Just wasn't cut out for it. Okay. So I'm jumping ahead a little bit because the next section, the main section I want to get into is talking about the video essays I have in mind. But I watched this amazing documentary on Chupple's YouTube channel. Shout out to Chupple on YouTube. I'm going to drop the link in the comments. It was an amazing, amazing documentary. It's only like 40 minutes. Like, it was concise. But it talked about D.A.R.E. For those that don't know, it was D.A.R.E. was the drug program that a lot of black exennials and millennials ended up enduring at the behest of our local police departments. And it was kind of an expose on D.A.R.E., talking about, and it gave some really good insights about why D.A.R.E. existed as it did. And it was kind of a funny thing to reminisce about because I remember very clearly being in 5th grade. And I'm dropping the link for the documentary in the comments because I really want y'all to spend time on it. But I remember very clearly being in 5th grade, sitting in my classroom, and they're like, they're explaining D.A.R.E. and the police are going to come and talk to us about drugs, and they're going to show up, I think it was like Wednesdays or whatever. Like, there was one day a week they would show up and give their spiel about anti-drug stuff. And so we're sitting there, and I remember this very clearly. The D.A.R.E. guy, basically, the D.A.R.E. cop, basically pulled out, like, I don't know if it was a suitcase or something, but it had either synthetic drugs in it or real drugs. They wanted to show us what these drugs look like. It was the weirdest damn thing. I'm so sorry. It was so bizarre. It was so bizarre. So he brought out this suitcase and he's like, and this is heroin. I'm in 5th grade. I'm sitting there like, he starts explaining to us the high that heroin gives and all this other stuff. And I'm like sitting there like, what is heroin? They introduced us to drugs, bro. Like, D.A.R.E. introduced us to drugs. Like, it told us what these things were and how people take them, and basically introduced it and said, yeah, now don't use these. It was the craziest work ever. It was the craziest work imaginable. But it was kind of in line with that just say no shit that they used to do in the 80s, right? Like Nancy Reagan's Just Say No. I remember very clearly there was a commercial with Pee Wee Herman. I remember this, bro. Like, I remember this. Pee Wee Herman comes on the screen, and Pee Wee Herman's like, this is crack. He holds a vial of crack. Pee Wee Herman. I watch Pee Wee Herman on Saturday mornings, bro. Pee Wee Herman is holding up a vial of crack rock. It's like, this is crack. There's nothing glamorous about it or anything. It'll kill you. And then they go to the next commercial. It was the oddest damn thing. But that's how they used to talk about us. That's how they talked that's how they talked about drugs to us. If I could find it, I'm looking it up now. Because you have to experience it. Yes, here it is. The Pee Wee Herman crack commercial. It was the weirdest damn thing. That's how they talked about they taught us about drugs by showing us drugs. It was weird, bro. And here's the thing, it was this weird, like, and if somebody offers you crack, who is walking around offering children crack? Where is this happening? But so anyway, I'm gonna show y'all this Pee Wee Herman commercial because it is one of the most psychotic things out of the 90s. Let me go ahead and share my screen right quick. And I'm probably gonna get this section of the video blocked. I don't care. Y'all got to see this because this is how we grew up, bro. I had to look up Pee Wee cracks. First thing that popped up, bro.
This is crack, rock cocaine. It isn't glamorous or cool or kid stuff. It's the most addictive kind of cocaine, and it can kill you. What's really bad is nobody knows how much it takes. So every time you use it, you risk dying. It isn't worth it. Look, everybody wants to be cool, but doing it with crack isn't just wrong. It could be dead wrong.
A vial of crack. This was on Saturday morning cartoons. Now, I wasn't oblivious to the streets as not knowing what crackheads were. We knew what crackheads were. A lot of us who were born in that era of the crack epidemic, we saw older people in our community who were addicted to that. Nobody thought it was cool. Nobody thought it was glamorous because we saw the residual impact of that up close. Having Pee Wee jump on my screen and hold up a vial of crack is one of the most demented things I've ever seen. And it cracks me up to this day. This is the drug education that we used to get. This is crack. Here's a vial of crack. An up close shot of the vial of crack. What is this, bro? Are you serious right now? An up close shot. The commercial ends on an up close shot of a vial of crack. After Pee Wee Herman told us there's nothing glamorous about it. I know there's nothing glamorous about it, bro. I grew up around here. We see crackheads walking around. Yes, there's nothing glamorous about it. Why is Pee Wee Herman holding up a vial of crack on my Saturday morning cartoons? So that's how they educated us about drugs. I just look it up. If you want to look into gape and look into the mouth of madness, the gaping maw of madness, go Google 90s drugs PSAs, 80s and 90s. They were so disconnected from any kind of formal reality that we are involved in right now. You'll have a blast. Pee Wee Herman he was holding up the krills, bro. Pee Wee Herman was holding up krills, bro. Like he was holding up a vial with some krills in it and telling us there's nothing glamorous about this. We know, Pee Wee. And come to find out, stuff what Pee Wee Herman was messing with was on that crack stuff. He was crackish. At some point, he was wilding out too. So anyway, that was how they educate us about drugs. And so they would bring in these cops and they would sit there and show us drugs and then talk about the drugs and then tell us never to do them. It didn't work. It didn't work. A lot of my friends growing up, once I got to high school, I wasn't a smoker or anything, but a lot of my friends were like potheads, like hardcore. They smoked every single day. They went through the same D.A.R.E program I did. It did not work. So here's the thing that came. These are the points from the documentary. I encourage you to sit down and watch it with your own eyes, because it gets deep, because it goes into RFK assassination, Daryl Gates, who was the head of the LA, who was the chief of the LAPD, but before then he was their chief intelligence officer, and now he had officers around the city embedded, and undercover agents embedded in the mayor's office and city council, and all around the world conducting covert operations. Yes, he did. They knew early on that D.A.R.E didn't reduce drug use. Like, they knew, really, like, out the gate, they knew that the model they had tried was proven to be completely and totally ineffective. And it actually made it worse. They knew this from the jump. The officers taught it with no specific really training. A lot of the training was gain their trust. And the reason why I was gaining their trust was because it was kind of a covert op, so that officers could be in position for kids to turn their parents in. It was largely kind of a PR program for the police. It was not a safety initiative. And all that stuff that they created were distractions. It was a multi-million-dollar machine where a lot of money got shuffled around. And if you look at the board of directors, it's a who's who of deplorable people from the 80s and 90s. So if you get a chance to see how deep the rabbit hole goes, go check out that D.A.R.E documentary. It was amazing. It was the best 40 minutes I spent all week. Really, really good stuff. And it was jaw dropping. Like I said, it just took me back to that Pee Wee Herman. Like, I remember they had us listen. Some of my classmates can back this up because I have them on Facebook as friends. They had us do songs, like our D.A.R.E program. Like, they had them doing like a dance step. Like, they had us doing like the bus stop and stuff. They had this big D.A.R.E graduation ceremony, and they had us up there dancing and to the D.A.R.E song. And I think we asked for Belle Biv DeVoe. I can't remember. It was psychotic. But we graduated from D.A.R.E. Didn't teach us a damn thing. Just showed us what heroin looked like. So anyway, like, people were driving around in the hood showing little black kids, you want some smack? Come on, man. So anyway, even though I'm on a nostalgic bend here, it did kind of bring something out of me. I want to start doing more, like, I want to dust off my journalism major, because that's what I went to school for before I ended up dropping out to go work and then coming back and get my degree. I was a journalism major. And that was kind of the path I was on. I wanted to be a hip hop journalist. Like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to review albums, interview rappers, and the who's who of the industry. And so that was kind of what I did. I worked in the radio station. I was the hip hop news guy. I would talk to record labels, get the lowdown on when things are coming out, stuff like that. That was what I did. And so my journalism major played into that. That's what my dream life was. And then I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna take a quick break. So I want to do video essays. I got a couple that are cooking, and it's going to be more of an investigative journalism thing, a little bit more free form than your typical video essay. But the one that stuck in my head, and I'm gonna talk about the one that I want to do, and then the one that stuck in my head. There's something that's fascinating about cities to me, and the idea, like, I'm working on this theory that most American cities west of the Mississippi were literally founded as gigantic criminal enterprises that had infrastructure built around them. Follow me on this one. I lost whoever was watching. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm losing people as they're watching. But so a lot of American cities, like Omaha specifically, because that's where I'm at. I'm using Omaha as an example. A lot of American cities, and I'm doing some research on this, so it's still kind of a theory, and not theory in the scientific use of the word. A scientific theory is basically a fact. This is still a theory. This is an idea that I'm doing research on. I have a theory that a lot of these cities in the Midwest started popping up were gigantic criminal enterprises, and then they just built infrastructure and political structures around them. All right. The one that put me up on this, I talked about working at Boys Town. Father Peter actually told me this. And for those that don't know, I'm talking about Boys Town. I know there's all kinds of gross shit about Boys Town that's out there. But Father Peter was really the one that came in and he alienated a lot of people. He stepped on a lot of toes. He cleared out a lot of really bad people out of that organization and shuffled them to the door. And he was relentless about firing people that messed with the kids. And so I always give Father Peter props. I always defer, like I always kind of speak with him in reverence because he was about that life and he protected those kids. He drove a lot of those people and he pissed off a lot of movers and shakers within the archdiocese. Spilling the tea a little bit. So anyway, but Father Peter mentioned this, and it was offhand comment. One of the things is with Father, Omaha back in the days when Father Flanagan was operating in Omaha was considered, it was kind of like, it was a wide open city. It was a big crime. Like it was lawless. It was founded on rackets, like criminal rackets. And so there's a lot of like Omaha was built upon crime and vices and illegal trades. And so I'm gonna go into a little bit of it, but we're not the only city that has this kind of history. There's plenty of them. We all know about Vegas and stuff, but there's some other ones that fit the same bill. Okay. So back in the days, Omaha criminal origin, Tom, the old gray wolf Dennison, came to Omaha in 1892. By 1900, he controlled the elections, the police, city government through money and political manipulation. As a crime syndicate, Omaha's wide open. It was known for all kinds of gambling, bootlegging, all protected under Tom Dennison. And this is before Vegas really popped off, bro. Like this is before they had even really expanded Vegas out there. There's a lot of prostitution here. 2,000 some odd sex workers in the city in the early 1900s. His governance, the way that Tom Dennison ran the city, really modern political machines on the East Coast. Okay. And so there were private offices. He had private offices and underground tunnels that let him move unseen. Some of those are still standing. You can go find those downtown. He had a privately run bank, which is over where Union Pacific is. And he funded civic projects and placed his cronies in the jobs. So it was also taking criminal activity and blending it into civic spheres. Omaha was known as a crime city, and it was wide open. Tom Dennison is also the one that started the Omaha race riot, where they barged into the police station, almost hung the mayor, and lynched and burned a black man of Will Brown. So he was the one that organized that. It was his people. And so a lot of it's, and I'm going to get into, I'm saving some for when I'm writing so I can go deeper into it. But a lot of Midwestern cities, the cities that are east of the or west of that Mississippi line, that's how they started out. Was, they were basically lawless towns, and the structure of it was built on crime. Okay, but yeah, he has helped incite the Omaha race riot. He lynched Will Brown, almost lynched Edward Smith, who was the mayor, and Dennison's folks were never charged. He protected them from any kind of prosecution. So in 1934, Dennison died, but his networks lasted. Omaha's political structure was called formless for a long time after that, because there was no head to consolidate the power. And so resource distribution, policing, infrastructure still reflect the footprints of Dennison's machine. Who gets their services and who doesn't, who gets regular policing and who gets the militarized level of policing. It's all kind of built into that. Omaha is still one of the most segregated cities you're going to find in the North. And so as a result of Omaha being so segregated, It's really easy. It's easy, but at the same time, it's not easy because they'll try to deny it, but it's really obvious about how resources are allocated. Um, I tell people all the time the North Freeway in Omaha, you know, my family and a lot of other Black families, that's if you've been in Omaha for multiple generations, your family probably lived where the North Freeway currently is. And a lot of Black businesses, Black churches, schools, homes were absolutely bulldozed to lay down that freeway. But conveniently, the freeway stopped before they got to the White District, which at the time was Miller Park. They didn't go that far, but they bulldozed all those Black folks and left a whole population of Black folks basically as nomads in this city, and removed all that generational wealth, all those houses and everything, all that structure that they had built, all those businesses gone. And they didn't offer anything else. So Omaha is kind of built like that. I'm trying to leave some stuff for the video essay, but I'm kind of running it down. So there were there's Black crime lords in Omaha too. Victor B. Walker, he was ex-Buffalo soldier, and a lawyer, but he also ran a lot of the vice rackets around here. Jack Broomfield, he owned a saloon and took over the Midway. And Harry Buford and Billy Crutchfield, they managed a lot of the vice rackets and stuff like that, and they were able to kind of protect their interests and also by extension their communities by consolidating that power. But they operated with and around Denison, so he kind of empowered them, and it was more or less, he allowed them to operate and allowed them to exist, and use the machine to control the Black political system in Omaha and the criminal economy. Like, it gets deep, yo. I'm telling you, it gets deep. After Denison, I can never say his name. Tony Baise and Omaha Mafia. I don't want to get too far into it. For no reason, I don't like talking about this stuff, but I'm going to get into it. There was another Tony, was it Baise? He led Omaha's organized crime up until the mid-70s. I'm trying to read some of my notes here. Connected to the Sevilla family in Kansas City. He ran narcotics, gambling, and maintained the Midwest mob ties. And so there's multiple layers to all this here. Okay. So as a result, North and Omaha are still underfunded and overpoliced. South Omaha has a little bit more because they've been able to consolidate some of the migrant communities a little bit more and pound the table and demand a little bit more, mobilize on levels that North Omaha has never really been able to mobilize on. But yeah, North Omaha and South Omaha are still underfunded and overpoliced. City planning and resource allocation are literally drawn on the lines of the vices and the vice geography. And the buildings are the same, only the labels have changed. I know Tom Dennison used to operate out of the Flatiron. Flatiron still exists, y'all. So if you don't know who built your city, you don't know who it was built for. All right, so I'm fascinated by this topic. I'm taking a deep dive, so I'm going to be doing a video essay talking about Omaha, but then also talking about some of these other cities out there. That's really what I want to get into. And so other crime-built cities, of course, is going to be Vegas with Bugsy Siegel. Like, we've seen enough of the Vegas stuff. Like, everybody knows how Vegas was kind of founded. Infrastructure and civic growth really funded what Siegel Syndicate wanted. Pendergast in Kansas City, that machine rigged all the elections and built half the city through mob control contracts. And the Sevilla crime family skimmed Vegas profits and ran all the city unions. Denver was a small alone family gambling. They ran gambling and extortion, and FBI dubbed Denver the Arvada cop mafia due to the fact that law enforcement were really all extensions of the mob. Yeah. San Francisco, and LA, the Lanza family ran vice out there and on the docks with city protection. A lot of this, you guys got to understand, and this is, it is what it is. If you're seeing a theme, the first thing they access is law enforcement. because you can control that. And then you use that to kind of control the rest of the population. LA, LA was built on land scams and radicalized police corruption. LA's ties are deep, deep in, in organized crime and stuff, to the point now they even have in the sheriff's department, they have their own little gang unit that operates that they've been sued about. All right, I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'm gonna come back. Like I said, we're back. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time on that because I'm fascinated by that topic. I think it's an amazing thing. About how a lot of these major cities are founded on crime. That's going to be a longer video essay. I'm gonna spend some time and dust off my research chops and see how well I can put this thing together. I'm hoping for your support on it, so check me out once I get it up and running. Okay, so the other video essay that I've been cooking in my mind, and I've been talking about it, I've been giving word to it, but I'm going to actually do this one. It's called I Thought There Would Be More Ninjas. And I'm going to talk about the ninja boom of the 80s and 90s. Here's how deep we were in the ninja thing. And this is before Ninja Turtles, bro. Like, this is before Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The comic book came out like in 88 and 89, but we're talking about before then. When I was a kid, Blockbuster Video, which was the spot, don't let anybody tell you any otherwise. When you were a child, Blockbuster was magic because it was all your entertainment needs in one place. You can get pop and candy, you can get popcorn, you can rent movies, and you can rent video games. That's all we needed on a weekend to keep ourselves plugged in and locked in. Now, Blockbuster Video had an entire section of just movies about ninjas. An entire section of movies about ninjas. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I'm gonna see if I can pull up a picture. Ninja movie section. Blockbuster. They would have an entire section dedicated to just all the most awesome ninja movies. And so we would sit there and you would go to Blockbuster Video and you would see, like, if there's something new out, you would, of course, go grab that, cop that. But then you would always drift over. I would always drift over to the ninja section to see what was out there. And some of these movies were not fit for my little 10-year-old brain to be watching, to be honest with you. But I was fascinated by it. And a lot of people were fascinated by it. There's a reason why the ninja craze of the 90s was such a big thing. And so I want to kind of talk about my experience with ninja and the entire ninja world and this thing that I thought was a thing that turned out to not be a thing. And it was fed by Blockbuster, but there was also one signature moment in my life that absolutely just blew my mind. and really made me all in on ninja stuff. Like I wanted to be a ninja. I wanted to join a ninja clan. I wanted to do all that stuff. And so that's what we're going to talk about. And so there's going to be a video essay where I do talk about it. And really it's going to be more of a coming of age thing, because it's going to be talking about the transition from thinking about this fantastical world that was just outside of my reach to being an adult in the mundane world. And so that's kind of what I'm planning the video essay around. It's going to be, I thought there would be more ninjas, because I really did. And this is really, really, this is from the heart. This is real as hell. When I was growing up, even I remember my Ninja Mania, where I thought that Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes were the coolest GI Joes ever. Snake Eyes didn't do a damn thing in that series. Like, I think he had like one episode where he actually did anything. He didn't do anything, but he was a ninja, so it didn't matter. Storm Shadow was out there just causing all kinds of havoc, and we could get with that. But we'd argue on the playground, who was better, who was better, quick kick and all this other stuff. Quick kick. We're like, quick kick is soft. He has nothing on Snake Eyes. If you read the G.I. Joe comics, Snake Eyes was a lot more active. And since the G.I. Joe comic books could be a lot more violent than the TV show could be, Snake Eyes was really like killing people and just going off. But I wasn't aware of the G.I. Joe comics until I got a little bit older. On Marvel, I wasn't aware of the G.I. Joe Marvel comics because they were graphic and they went in. Okay. 80 saw a huge explosion of ninja driven content in America. It wasn't accidental. It was, cultural export and Reagan era fantasy. So a lot of the ninja movies had something to do with drugs. Okay. But like movies like Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, the American Ninja series, which I've seen every single one of them, the Octagon, man, get Beverly Hills Ninja up out of here, bro. Yeah, that shouldn't even be on my online. But yeah, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers to a degree, the Ninja Turtle movies, but this is later on in the era, right? Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden, Shinobi, even Double Dragon, Mortal Kombat had the ninjas. And so ninjas had powers that didn't involve guns. Like they had magical abilities. They could beat their enemies with skill and intelligence and magic. Like they could teleport and all kinds of other stuff. They wore masks, and so that just became part of the mystique. They trained in secret. Like you had to be chosen to train as a ninja. This is what I thought. Now you're understanding. I'm talking about this from the reference of a 10-year-old kid and what I knew. They could move through systems undetected, and they didn't need help. They're a one-man army, one-woman army, one-kid army. I wanted to be a ninja. So here's the part that blew my mind. So at the time, I was 100% nerded out. Like I was all the way in on nerd stuff. I was Boy Scout. Before then, I was in Cub Scouts. Cub Scout meeting. We're sitting there with a special guest. I don't know who booked this man. I don't know where he came from. I know he worked with our troops sometime. So he's coming in to talk to us about something very important. Now we're getting ready for the gang talk because we done heard the gang talk, because back then gangs have started kind of moving into, like around age of 10, gangs have been kind of moving into Omaha. Some had older folks that I knew that were tied up in it, older relatives and stuff that were kind of into the stuff. And so gangs had infiltrated. And so we're thinking it's going to be at the gang talk. And he pulls us in. This is Cub Scouts. I'm wearing the little blue uniform with the little neckerchief and all this other stuff. Full nerded out with the short shorts. It was an ugly sight. This man sits down, pulls up a chair, and does this entire elaborate story. I'm about to talk to you guys about something very important. Something that I've seen rising, and I want to address to make sure that you guys don't get caught up in it. And we're like, oh man, this is heavy. Like we're thinking this is something heavy. Oh my God, we don't want to be caught up in this. He's like, I'm seeing a lot of media about ninjas on TV. And I'm here to tell you that ninjas are not the good guys. They're not heroes. They kill people. They hurt little kids. They're assassins and they're killers. This ninja life is nothing to play with. Now, I know it was supposed to be, yeah, man, I was all wrong about ninjas. Bro, I need to kind of change what I'm looking at. In my mind, that basically said, ninjas are real? They exist? That was all I could see. At that point, I decided that I was going to join a ninja clan. By hook or by crook, I was going to join a ninja clan because this adult sat here, looked me in my face, and told me that ninjas are dangerous and they hurt people and they're assassins and they're not heroes. And he just confirmed. I was drifting out of it. I was like, I don't know if they exist. I think it just might be the movies. This adult basically told me ninjas were real. And my 10-year-old brain was just lit aflame. Like, ninjas are real. And that became my aspirational thing. I want to join a ninja clan. I want to be a ninja. Like, that's where my 10-year-old brain went. Like, I want to be a ninja. This man, this adult, I'm talking about an adult, a grown adult with bills and children of his own and a mortgage and a job and everything. This adult literally just looked me in my face and told me that ninjas were real and they existed. Bro, that's all I needed to hear. It was a signature moment in my life. He confirmed what I thought. You could have come down, like, he confirmed something for me that he didn't know, because invariably we're all sitting there, we're looking at each other like, yo, ninjas are real, bro. This adult just told us. This grown man, adults know everything. This adult just told us that ninjas exist and they actually have secret societies and clans and they run drugs and kidnap people. I don't care about all that. I need to be one. I want to join a ninja clan. And so, trying to figure out how to join the kumite, like Frank Dukes lied about in Bloodsport. I had to be part of it. There was this magical world where there were ninjas and dragons, and you could use your inner power to heal yourself and to jump a story straight up in the air and sword fight and stuff. Like, that was all I needed to know, bro. That punch, that was a revelation for me. And I got older and realized that this was just a crazy person. It was just a person suffering under some level of delusion. But he had to come and tell us. He had to warn us about the dangers of ninja-led gangs. I can't imagine how the conversation went. Hey, y'all, we need to reach the kids. Well, I got a Boy Scout. I got a Cub Scout troop. All right, man. Cool. I got something really heavy on my mind I need to talk to them about. You talk to them about gang life. Oh, cool. Well, come on in. Let's talk to them about gang life. Sits down. Hey, y'all need to be careful. These ninja gangs is out here in the hood recruiting little black kids. You need to be aware. Tell them no. Where are they? I must join them for research purposes. I must find them and at least ask what they're about. Like, I need to know what they're about so I can weigh my options, right? Like, hey, you move away from home. We're going to take you out to our fortress in Japan in the mountains, and we're going to train you for the next 7 years to become one of the most premier ninja assassins on the planet. Sign me up. Sign me up, bro. And so, I like to say that it extended my childhood a little bit longer, because now I had something to believe in. I had ninjas to believe in. And it carried me through the entire Ninja Turtles thing until my early teens. And then this was kind of my last hurrah in Boy Scouts. Because I was Cub Scouts and we went to Boy Scouts. And I did not know that they were nerds. And I'm saying this as a nerd. Like, I did not know that I was hanging out with other black nerds. I thought they were cool. But Our first camp at Boy Scouts, we go on a night hike for our merit badges, and the troop leaders like don like all black, got the skull the baklava shiesty, the black shiesty, pulled over like a ninja, and they was walking around the camp, jumping other Boy Scout camps, jumping out of the bushes, beating them up, and then disappearing like ninjas. I can't explain to you what happened to me, because at that point I'm like, oh man, this is this is trash, bro. Like, I don't want to be involved in this. This is embarrassing. I was like 13. Like, this is embarrassing, bro. Oh man, seeing the ninja in real life is kind of lame. But anyway, the mystique lasted until my preteen years. So anyway, they brought this man in to talk about gang life, and he basically told us ninja gangs existed, confirming something in my 10-year-old brain, and set my brain afire. So one of the jarring things about losing your childhood is when you start realizing the things that you thought were real were not real. And these magical worlds that existed outside of your reach were just that. They were just made up shit. And so that was one of the first things that was kind of stolen from me. That's one of the first things I fell out of love with, was the entire concept of ninja life and ninjas existing. Um, and I think a lot of times we have those moments, especially for little black kids, because we do tend to abridge the childhood of black children a lot. Some of it's out of necessity, or we think it's out of necessity. We don't want them to live in a fantasy world. I've seen lots of explanations about why they don't let their kids believe in Tooth Fairy or Santa Claus or the other stuff. I'm not here to judge. You raise your kids however you want to. But I feel like we do abridge our children's childhood, and we see it as something that's necessary. I don't think it's not. I don't think it's necessary all the time. I think sometimes you need to let your children experience childish things and have fun in the imagination world, without always having to bring the harsh grounding of reality to them, because they're going to encounter reality a lot as an adult, especially as a young black person. Your illusions get shattered really quick. Um, you know, the illusion that, the police are on your side, they're there to protect you. North Omaha got that out of me real fast. Seventh grade, having one of my best friends be out of school for weeks after a mistaken identity. He got beat by a bunch of cops in his front yard. He's seventh grade. He's the same age I was, and almost hospitalized him. And so you get snapped out of these fantasies really fast as a black kid. And so anything that you can hold on to allow black kids to imagine, I think is a good thing. I think we need more of it. I don't think it's a bad thing to let little black kids sometimes have their heads in the cloud, as long as it's safe. I was 100% in ninjas. I would have jumped out of a tree after this dude. I would have jumped out of a tree with a ninja outfit on. After dude confirmed that ninjas existed. But I do think that transition to black adulthood comes a little bit earlier, and sometimes it's at the expense of the childhood wonder that you have. I always joke about it, but I'm not lying. Where a lot of rappers that I grew up with were nerds, not in a bad pejorative way, but you look at how many hip hop references there are for comic books and sci-fi movies and video games. Even now, wrestlers and stuff like that. That's nerd fare. That's nerd shit. Look at shit. I mean, Method Man's alter ego is Johnny Blaze. That's Ghost Rider. He knew that was Ghost Rider. Okay. Ice Cube has referenced comic books. And so a lot of rappers we grew up with were into the nerd life. A lot of the cats that were gang members in my high school, we would still sit there and talk about comic books and stuff. I don't think y'all know. We would sit down and talk about comic books. We would talk about, at the time, Akira had kind of blown up in the United States. I know it had been here for a while, but it didn't hit the hood for a while. And so we started copying it when the Sci-Fi Channel started playing like Robot Carnival and the other anime features and stuff on Saturdays. And so we'd watch Akira and stuff, and we'd sit there and talk about it, talk about Ghost in the Machine, um, and all kinds of other stuff. And so a lot of black folks who aren't nerd signifying were actually involved in a lot of nerd stuff. Just dope. I don't have a problem with it. I think that's amazing. I'm proud of that. But I think we do end up taking something away from our children by exposing them to adult things. You know, my kids couldn't listen to uncensored music for a long time, and I'm still leery about what they can listen to. They're 14 and 15 years old now. I don't want them to be listening to all that adult stuff. I didn't want them to be listening to all that when they were little. I let them listen to Radio Disney and little kid stuff. Then let them watch horror movies. I'll make them watch, little kids shows, age appropriate stuff that was for their age, so that they could have the full benefit of a childhood without that being a bridge for them. Now, I'm not saying that I didn't watch Freddy Krueger and stuff like that, because I did. I used to have to sneak to watch that, though. It wasn't openly offered to me. I had to actually sneak around and watch it. But I still watched my cartoons and everything. But that was just something else to watch. And so we with our children, we really wanted to allow them to be children. And so people like, oh, they're sheltered or whatnot. No, my children have a pretty good grasp on the world. We still had real talks with them about things that were going on in the world, but we also would allow them to participate in child things and keep them away from adult things. So anyway, that's going to be a video essay, y'all. I thought there would be more ninjas. Like I said, man, I thought that dude came out and said ninja gangs. I'm like, oh, there are really ninjas out here. Let's fucking go, bro. I don't think y'all understood what that did to me as a kid. So anyway, I appreciate y'all tuning in, sticking with me for this long. Check out the video essays I got coming up. I'm be working on those. Probably going to be working on cities built by crime, and probably be using Omaha as the example. I'll probably start working on that one. I've been trying to figure out how I want to phrase. I thought there would be more ninjas. I think it's probably just going to be more of a conversation that I transcribe and build an outline around. And I can do that. I've never done a video essay before, so I don't even know how the format goes. So mine might be a little bit looser than the ones that you're used to seeing. Okay. But those are the things I got coming up here. Again, I ain't mourning Hulk Hogan. He was my hero growing up, but man, come on. I was off of that dude in 2000. I was off of that dude before 2007. And I try to make it a point not to mourn dead races. Check out Chupple's doc about the D.A.R.E program, especially if you're my age, and you've gone through D.A.R E. It's an amazing watch. And it's not just about D.A.R E. You're going to see so many different things covered and how they're connected and interconnected with the legality and illegality of the activities of the LAPD. It's really amazing. Okay. Be on the lookout for the video essay for I Thought There'd Be More Ninjas, and the video essay about how these cities are built upon crime. Okay. And am I missing anything? Oh, I might do something about my experience being a lower middle class Black person trying to infiltrate the upper crust of Black society. I don't know exactly how I would phrase that, because I don't want to necessarily denigrate anybody for their growing up experience. Because even if you grew up as a Black person, there's a universal experience there. But I don't want to denigrate anybody that grew up with a lot more means and resources than I had, because that's not what the play is. There's some unifying things, but there's also some different rules of interaction and social interaction that occur at that level. And I was not versed in that. And it was a jarring experience. So I might do something to follow up on it. But understand, if you're crossing over or you're a young Black person trying to climb the corporate ladder and you don't come from a professional class, where I'm saying, yeah, my mom was a professional, but she kind of got it out of the mud, and still was kind of on the outside periphery of a lot of the more established Black professionals. There's rules that you got to learn to survive by, and there are networking rules that you got to learn how to survive by. I didn't play the game, and I was not good at it, and that kind of colored my entire experience with it. But understand that if you're trying to succeed in these spaces, you have to learn how to navigate these spaces and do the code switch, because you even have to code switch around other Black folks, which is kind of a bizarre. I realized, to me, that was a bizarre thing, having a code switch around other Black folks. Like, what? But it was what it was. So anyway, I do appreciate y'all tuning in on this live stream. The one or two of you that popped in, I do appreciate y'all. I'm gonna still keep doing these. I'm gonna start actually cutting out segments of these and posting these on YouTube, because I do want to build out that platform. I'm probably gonna start adding some video games to these streams on Saturdays, because I want to dust off my Overwatch, my Overwatch thing. I got to start practicing on PC, so that I can at least play on here and talk to y'all at the same time. So that's all I got. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Again, this has been the Blerding While Dad live stream. I will see y'all hopefully next Tuesday. I'm trying to make this a thing, y'all. Really trying to make this a thing. All right. So Blerding While Dad's where the mask comes off and it gets real. I'll talk to y'all later. Be easy.